Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. I've been getting a lot of questions from subscribers. I've been getting a lot of comments on social media, and they're all relating back to Errol Spence Jr. And his win. And then it keeps coming back to Saul Canelo Alvarez, saying that Errol Spence Jr. could take Canelo. It would be a great fight. Look how well Errol Spence Jr. is boxed. Look how great of a boxer he is. Look how talented he is. And a lot of people are coming to me and say, IBFP, you're wrong because, you were wrong about the Mikey pick. You picked Mikey to beat Spence. And you're absolutely right. I was 100% wrong. And Errol Spence Jr. showed a lot of skills that I didn't think he had. So I'll eat that crow and I'll give Errol Spence Jr. the full credit of having skills I didn't realize he had because he had never displayed them at a higher weight class, at the 147-pound weight class against a true welterweight. He waited until he fought a guy moving up 2 weight classes to display his boxing skills. So that means, how do I know those skills still translate when you fight a naturally bigger guy, a naturally bigger welterweight? I don't know because I've never seen you do it against anyone but a guy moving up 2 divisions in weight. Now people say, well, you're criticizing Errol, and I'm not. I like Errol Spence Jr., but he still is unproven. Beating Mikey Garcia does not make him a pound-for-pound fighter, does not make him elite, and it definitely does not put him in the realm of Saul Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is an elite level fighter. He has, great defense, great offense, amazing foot movement, hand speed, and he's shown levels to his games against elite levels opponents. There's no one that, Errol Spence Jr. has fought that was as good as Landy Lara. No one. Because even Mikey Garcia didn't display the skills that Landy Lara has displayed. And we believed that Mikey Garcia would put on a better performance against Errol Spence. But when Mikey Garcia entered the ring, he did none of the things that we anticipated that he did in many of his other fights. He wasn't offensively aggressive at times. He was not letting his hands go. And then some of the game plan in which he talked about dictating using a lot of movement. There was no movement. He was very flat-footed. So Mikey Garcia came into the fight not doing a lot of the things that he talked about wanting to do. And so at the end of the day, it was an excellent fight. But then you also see that Errol Spence Jr. was unable to drop or knock out a guy moving up 2 divisions in weight. So that's even more concerning because what I feel is if Errol Spence and Canelo Alvarez met at 160 pounds, Canelo Alvarez is, clearly the A side over anyone in boxing at this point. Errol Spence Jr. would be fully hydrated to his more natural weight at the middleweight division. But I think the skills gap would come into play because Canelo Alvarez is head and shoulders over Errol Spence skills-wise. Canelo Alvarez is head and shoulders over Errol Spence power-wise. And so I think he'll pretty much just walk Errol Spence Jr. down and stop him within the first 4 to 5 rounds. I don't think that Errol Spence Jr. would make it past the 5th round. I think that Canelo Alvarez would dog walk Errol Spence Jr. It wouldn't be a difficult fight. It wouldn't be a hard fight. I think Errol Spence Jr. would attempt to be competitive in box and move the first 2 to 3 rounds. I think Canelo Alvarez would start clipping him the 4th round, put him out of his misery the 5th round. I just think it would be an early night for Errol Spence Jr. because he's never fought an opponent at the level of Canelo. He's never fought an opponent with the power, skills, size, any of the things that Canelo Alvarez has. When you look at Errol Spence Jr., he has displayed some boxing ability. We give him credit for that. But he's never displayed it at this level against this type of opponent, against a much bigger, stronger guy. He hasn't even displayed this against a welterweight, much less a guy like Canelo. And if you don't have the power to stop or drop a Mikey Garcia, I know that your power is going to be no match for Canelo Alvarez, who already has a granite chin, who has a chin that a guy can't, that most guys, the strongest guy in the middleweight division in Triple G was unable to hurt. So I feel 100% confident and assured that Errol Spence Jr. would have nothing in the power department for Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez would mute his entire body attack. If you look at what Mikey Garcia did, he didn't do a lot of things right in that fight, but what he did do is he blocked a lot of Errol Spence Jr. shots, and he parried a lot of shots, swatted away a lot of shots. And if you think that Mikey Garcia can do that, imagine what Canelo Alvarez can do. Imagine how great Canelo Alvarez would be defensively. Not knowing, but Mikey Garcia has laid out a blueprint to beat Errol Spence Jr. And the fact is that we know that Errol Spence Jr. power is not as strong as many people thought it was. And he's only displayed skills against a much smaller opponent moving up in weight. So these are a few things that we've noticed. And we know that his offense can be muted and blocked if you're a really good defensive fighter. Now, the thing is, if you have power, size, and skill, you can overcome an Errol Spence Jr., who is a very good fighter at this point in his career, but at welterweight because he's oversized for the division. What happens when he fights a guy his same size naturally in Canelo Alvarez? Canelo puts him to sleep within 5 rounds. And once again, this is the IBFP Unbiased. As always, please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.